Alex stepped onto the bustling space station with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. It was his first assignment as a xenobiology researcher, and this station was home to beings from dozens of different planets. Humans were rare here, and he had been warned to expect the unexpected. But nothing in his training could have prepared him for living with an alien roommate. His quarters were small but comfortable, a cube-shaped room with 2 beds, a table, and a tiny kitchenette. Across from him sat Lyra, his roommate, a young alien woman from the Velari species. She had soft, iridescent skin that shimmered faintly in the station's artificial light, and large, expressive eyes that seemed to see through him. Lyra was polite but distant, moving gracefully, almost silently, around the room. She had a way of studying Alex that made him feel like he was under constant observation. Alex had read about the Velari before coming. They were intelligent, curious, and highly social, but they had one peculiar trait. Their species experienced intense behavioral changes during mating season. It was a biological phenomenon designed to strengthen bonds, but for someone unfamiliar, it could feel overwhelming. Alex hoped he could handle it. On his first night, things seemed normal. They shared a small dinner and discussed their routines. Lyra spoke little about her personal life, and Alex did his best to respect her privacy. Yet, there was an energy in the air he couldn't ignore, a subtle tension he chalked up to first impressions. The next morning, alarms blared throughout the station. A flashing red light turned the hallways a harsh crimson, and a recorded voice echoed through the corridors. Attention residents. A planetary anomaly has triggered an automatic lockdown. All personnel must remain in their quarters until further notice. Alex froze. "Stay in the room?" he asked nervously. Lyra simply nodded, her calm demeanor hiding any emotion. Alex could feel the panic rising in his chest. He had hoped the first week would be smooth. Now he was trapped in close quarters with a creature whose biology he barely understood, and right in the middle of her mating season. Hours passed slowly. Alex tried to focus on his research notes, jotting down observations about the alien plants he had been assigned to study. But Lyra moved about the room in ways that drew his attention. She hummed softly as she cleaned her area, her movements precise and rhythmic. Every now and then she glanced at him with those large, curious eyes. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it made Alex self-conscious. He reminded himself of the scientific approach: observe, analyze, and record. That's what he had been trained to do. He tried to ignore the feelings of nervousness building inside him, and instead focused on understanding her behavior. Lyra's species communicated in a mix of subtle gestures and pheromones, a combination Alex had only studied from a distance. He noticed a change in her posture, the slight flare of her iridescent markings, and even a soft change in her breathing pattern. By evening, the tension was palpable. Alex had attempted to cook dinner, an admittedly clumsy effort, and Lyra had watched quietly, occasionally tilting her head as if intrigued. She offered a small comment here and there, noting the smell of the food or the technique he used. Her voice was melodic, but it carried an intensity that made Alex aware of every movement he made. He laughed nervously. "I hope I don't ruin everything," he said, trying to break the awkward silence. Lyra tilted her head again and said softly, "You are different from others." Alex blinked. "Different? How?" "You are curious, observant. You notice things others ignore," she replied. There was a pause, and then she added, "It is rare." Alex felt a strange mix of pride and anxiety. Being different wasn't usually a problem with humans, but with an alien, he wasn't sure if it was a compliment or a warning. The next morning, Alex woke to find Lyra sitting cross-legged on the floor, her eyes closed, humming. The soft sound filled the small room, vibrating faintly against the walls. He realized she was performing a ritual, one that she had likely carried out every morning for generations. It was connected to her mating season, though he didn't yet understand the full purpose. He carefully took notes, watching without disturbing her. Her movements were graceful, almost hypnotic. The hum rose and fell in pitch as she shifted her posture. Alex felt a mixture of awe and unease. He wanted to understand, but he also couldn't deny the strange pull he felt being near her. By midday, he tried to start a conversation. "Lyra, can you tell me more about your rituals?" She opened her eyes and looked at him directly. "They are meant to connect with others, to share energy, trust, and understanding. It is important during this season." Alex nodded slowly. "So it's like a social bond?" "Yes. But it is deeper than you can imagine," she said, her voice calm but carrying an edge of intensity. "It chooses with whom it forms." Alex swallowed. The reality hit him. He might be more involved than he had ever expected. He wasn't just an observer. He was sharing this space, this moment, and her attention. The day dragged on. Alex tried reading, taking notes, and even rearranging his side of the room to distract himself. Lyra moved about with quiet purpose, occasionally performing small gestures that seemed like tests or signals. Alex noted each one meticulously. He wanted to understand, but he also wanted to remain professional. As evening fell, Alex realized he had learned more about alien behavior in one day than he had in years of study. Lyra's rituals, subtle pheromone, signals and expressions were a puzzle, and he was both the student and part of the experiment. Then, as the red emergency lights flickered softly through the room, Lyra turned to him with a small, almost shy smile. "Do you understand now why this season is important?" she asked. Alex hesitated, unsure how to respond. I think I understand some of it," he said honestly. Her smile widened slightly. "You are observant, human. Perhaps you will learn more than most." Alex felt a strange sense of relief. It wasn't a threat, but a challenge. He realized that surviving this lockdown wasn't just about following rules. It was about understanding, empathy, and patience. He was trapped, yes, but he was also given a unique opportunity to learn directly from a being so different from himself. That night, Alex lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. He could hear Lyra humming softly across the room, a sound that was strangely soothing now. He reflected on the day, on the alien rituals, the subtle signals, and the growing awareness that this experience was changing him. He wasn't just a researcher anymore. He was part of something living, something alive and intricate, and he felt both fear and fascination. He wondered what the next day would bring. The lockdown could end at any moment, but for now they were trapped together. The thought made him nervous, but also curious. He realized that the key to surviving, and perhaps thriving, was to pay attention, to respect her rituals, and to trust his own instincts. As he drifted to sleep, he couldn't help but think of Lyra's words. The season was meant to form bonds, and somehow he felt he had become part of that process. He didn't yet know what it meant for him personally, but he was eager to learn. The uncertainty was daunting, but for the first time, he felt a spark of connection to this alien life he had been sent to study. The first part of the story ends with Alex closing his eyes, the soft hum of Lyra's ritual filling the room, and a sense of anticipation hanging in the air. He had survived the first day of lockdown with his alien roommate, but he knew that the real challenge and the real learning was only beginning. The next morning, the soft glow of the station's artificial light filled the room. Alex woke to find Lyra already awake, moving gracefully across the small space. Her ritual had changed slightly overnight. Instead of humming, she was performing delicate movements with her arms and fingers, her eyes closed as if in deep focus. Alex watched quietly, careful not to disturb her. He had learned from yesterday that observing her without interference was the best way to understand her species. "Good morning," he said softly, trying to keep his voice steady. Lyra opened her eyes, which shimmered faintly under the light. "Good morning, human," she replied. There was no trace of judgment or mockery in her tone, only calm recognition. "You slept well?" "I did," Alex answered, though sleep had been restless. His mind was still processing the intensity of the previous day. "And you?" "I sleep when necessary," she said simply. Her gaze shifted to him, curious, measuring. "Your presence. It affects my energy, but it is manageable." Alex nodded, unsure if that was a warning or a compliment. "I'll try not to disturb you," he said. Lyra inclined her head slightly. "You already observe carefully." "That is enough." The day began with small tasks. Alex attempted to study the alien plants in his collection, but he kept getting distracted by Lyra's movements. She was performing a series of gestures he hadn't noticed before, her iridescent skin catching the light in mesmerizing patterns. It was as if she were communicating without words, sending signals he was only beginning to interpret. He took careful notes, recording her motions, the subtle changes in her breathing, and the soft sounds she made. It was fascinating. The mating season, he realized, was not merely about reproduction. It was a method of connection, a way to strengthen bonds and enhance understanding between two individuals. And in this moment, he felt as though he were becoming part of that connection. As the hours passed, Alex tried to engage Lyra in conversation. "Lyra, can you tell me more about your species history?" he asked. "How do you normally form bonds?" Lyra paused, her movements slowing as she considered the question. "Bonds are formed through shared experiences, trust, and mutual respect. The mating season amplifies these processes. It is not only physical, it is emotional and mental. One must understand the other deeply." Alex swallowed, realizing the truth in her words. He was not just observing anymore. He was participating. The knowledge he had sought as a researcher was now entwined with his own emotions and instincts. By midday, the room felt warmer, not from the station's climate controls, but from the presence of two beings learning to coexist in an unfamiliar space. Alex decided to test his understanding. He initiated a small experiment, arranging some plants and tools on the table to observe how Lyra would react. She approached with cautious curiosity, examining his setup with delicate gestures, almost like a dance. "You are careful," she said, her voice soft. "You do not rush. You observe. That is unusual." Alex smiled faintly. "I've learned that rushing often leads to mistakes," he replied, "especially when trying to understand something completely new." Lyra's eyes glimmered with interest. "You adapt well. That is rare among humans." The afternoon brought an unexpected challenge. The station's systems detected a minor fault in one of the environmental modules. While it was not immediately dangerous, it required immediate attention to prevent complications. Alex and Lyra moved together, working side by side. He guided her through some of the human-designed controls, while she used her species' natural intuition to sense fluctuations in the system. Their combined efforts stabilized the module. It was the first time Alex realized how effective they could be as a team. His human ingenuity complemented Lyra's alien abilities perfectly. In that moment, he felt a deep sense of respect, not just for her species, but for the potential of humanity in the galaxy. After resolving the technical issue, they returned to their quarters. The experience had shifted the dynamic between them. There was a subtle understanding now, a shared recognition of each other's strengths. Alex felt less nervous, more confident. Lyra, in turn, seemed more relaxed, her movements less formal and more fluid. As evening approached, the lockdown showed no sign of ending. Alex suggested they share a meal together, a simple attempt at camaraderie. Lyra agreed, preparing a small dish from the station's provisions. They ate in silence at first, then gradually began talking. "You are different from other humans," Lyra said again, her tone contemplative. "Most react with fear or avoidance when faced with our rituals. You observe, adapt, and respect. That is noteworthy." Alex laughed softly. "I've spent my life studying alien life. I guess it's easier to respect what you understand." Lyra tilted her head. "Understanding requires attention. Most humans lack patience. I'm not most humans," he said with a hint of pride. "I want to understand. I want to learn." Her eyes softened slightly. "Perhaps that is why this season affects you differently. You are not afraid. You are willing to connect. That is rare." The night passed with more rituals and careful observations. Alex found himself fascinated by Lyra's behaviors, the subtle ways she communicated trust, curiosity, and interest. He began to notice patterns, small signs that indicated comfort or attention. It was like learning a new language, one that transcended words. The following morning, a soft chime indicated a status update. The lockdown was still in place, but communications from the station's command confirmed that the planetary anomaly was stabilizing. They would remain trapped for a few more days at least. Alex felt a strange mix of relief and disappointment. relief that the danger was passing, disappointment because the experience with Lyra was just beginning. During those days, they continued to share tasks, conversations, and quiet moments. Alex learned to anticipate Lyra's needs, from adjusting the room's lighting to preparing certain meals she preferred. Lyra, in turn, began to respond to his gestures and routines, acknowledging his efforts in subtle ways. A tilt of her head, a soft hum, a glimmer in her eyes. One afternoon, Alex decided to attempt a more daring experiment. He tried to mimic one of Lyra's rituals, carefully following the patterns he had observed. Lyra watched silently at first, then slowly joined him, guiding his movements with gentle corrections. For the first time, their actions were synchronized, a quiet dance of mutual understanding. "You learn quickly," Lyra said, her voice soft but filled with approval. "You are impressive." Alex felt a surge of pride and relief. "I'm just trying to understand," he said, "and I want to respect your ways." "You do," she replied simply. "That is enough." The final day of the lockdown arrived, and the station announced that normal operations would resume. Alex and Lyra prepared to leave their quarters, but the bond they had formed remained. The experience had changed them both. Alex had learned the intricacies of an alien species, the power of observation, patience, and empathy. Lyra had discovered a human capable of adapting, understanding, and forming a connection beyond instinct. As they stepped into the hall, the first signs of normal activity returned. Other residents moved about, oblivious to the small drama that had unfolded in one room. Alex looked at Lyra, who smiled softly. "Do you understand now why this season is important?" she asked again, her tone lighter than before. "I think I do," Alex replied. "It's about connection, trust, understanding, and maybe respect." Lyra nodded. "Yes, you have learned well. And perhaps you have more to teach us as well." Alex smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment and hope. The mating season had been a challenge, but it had also been an opportunity, a chance to witness the extraordinary, to connect across species, and to grow in ways he had never imagined. As they walked through the corridors together, Alex realized that this experience was only the beginning. He had survived the first encounter with a truly alien life form during its most intense season, not through fear or avoidance, but through curiosity, empathy, and courage. In that moment, he understood the essence of being human in the galaxy: adaptability, intelligence, and the ability to form bonds even in the most unexpected circumstances. It was a small victory, but a meaningful one, proving that humans could thrive and even excel among the stars. The story ended not with a dramatic flourish, but with quiet satisfaction. Alex and Lyra, two beings from different worlds, had faced a challenge together and emerged stronger, wiser, and connected. It was a testament to humanity's capacity to understand, to respect, and to form meaningful connections, no matter how alien the environment.